Wealthy CEO mocked his ex-wife for being childless at the Christmas dinner, but was shocked when quadruplets arrived. "You invited me here to humiliate me," Nora said. Her voice carried across the silent ballroom. Every eye was on her. Every phone was recording. "You wanted me to see your perfect family, your perfect life. You wanted me to feel small." Preston's mouth opened, but no words came out. Nora took 3 steps forward. Her heels clicked on the marble floor. Each step echoed like a countdown. "So I brought something for you to see too, Preston." "Nora, I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is inappropriate," Preston finally managed. His voice shook slightly. "This is a charity gala, not the place for whatever grievance you're nursing after all these years." Nora smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It wasn't a cruel smile either. It was the smile of someone who knows exactly what's about to happen and has made peace with it. "Oh, this is exactly the right place," she said. "You made it the right place when you sent me that invitation, when you wrote that note telling me to come see what a real family looks like." She pulled out her phone. She pressed a number. She held it to her ear. The crowd leaned forward collectively. Whispers rippled through the ballroom like wind through wheat. "We're ready," Nora said into the phone. Preston felt his heart hammering against his ribs. Something was wrong. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. Nora was supposed to sit there quietly, embarrassed, diminished. She was supposed to see his success with Thea and Piper and realize what she'd lost. She was supposed to leave with her tail between her legs while everyone pitied her. This wasn't the script. "What are you doing?" Preston asked. Nora put her phone away. She looked at him with those calm brown eyes he'd once loved and later resented and finally forgotten. "I'm showing you what a real family looks like," she said. Then she turned and walked toward the massive oak doors at the ballroom entrance. "If you've ever wanted to see the exact moment someone's entire world explodes, you need to stay with me for this story. I'm Dr. Phillips, and what you're about to hear is a tale about pride, consequences, and 4 sons who changed everything. Hit that like button right now because this twist is going to leave you speechless. And make sure you're subscribed to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because I promise you, this story will stay with you long after it ends. Now let me take you back to where this all began. 4 weeks before that Christmas gala. 4 weeks before Preston Aldrich's perfect life shattered like the champagne glass that would fall from his hand. It was a Tuesday morning in late November. Manhattan was cold, the kind of cold that bites through expensive coats and reminds you that money can't control everything. Preston sat in his corner office on the 45th floor of Aldrich Tower. Looking out over the city spread below him like a kingdom he'd conquered, his assistant Kenji knocked on the doorframe. He was a efficient young man, 28 years old, always perfectly dressed, never late, never inefficient. "The final arrangements for the gala, Mr. Aldrich," Kenji said, holding a tablet. "Good. How many confirmed?" Preston asked without turning from the window. 214 guests. "Excellent." Preston finally turned to face him. At 52, Preston Aldrich looked like a man who'd won at life. Salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, a physique maintained by a personal trainer, a face that still drew admiring glances from women half his age. "Did you send the special invitation?" Kenji hesitated. It was barely noticeable, just a slight pause before he answered. "Yes, sir, to Ms. Nora Westfield, as you requested." "And the note I wrote on it?" "It was included exactly as you specified, sir." Preston smiled. He walked to his desk and sat down in the leather chair that cost more than most people's monthly salary. On his desk was a copy of the invitation, cream-colored cardstock, the finest quality, gold lettering embossed with care. The Aldrich Foundation's annual Christmas gala. Black tie. The Pierre Hotel, December 21st at 7 o'clock. And at the bottom, in Preston's own handwriting, a personal note to his ex-wife. "Come see what warmth looks like. Come see what a real family is." "Do you think she'll come?" Kenji asked. "She'll come," Preston said with certainty. "Nora won't be able to resist. She'll want to prove something. That's how she is. Always needing to prove she's fine, she's successful, she's moved on. She'll show up in some boring black dress with her boring haircut and try to act like my success doesn't bother her." Kenji shifted his weight slightly. "May I ask why you want her there, sir? It's been 8 years since your divorce." Preston leaned back in his chair. The leather creaked softly. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Manhattan skyline. The city glittered in the gray November light. "Because I want her to see what she missed," Preston said. I want her to see Thea. I want her to see Piper. I want her to see the family I built after she failed to give me one. For 12 years, Kenji, I was married to that woman. 12 years of hoping, trying, waiting for her to be something she fundamentally wasn't capable of being. Sir, warm, human, capable of putting someone else first. Preston's voice took on an edge. Nora was always more interested in her architecture projects than in our marriage. Always at the office, always traveling for clients, always prioritizing her career. And when we went through fertility treatments, when we tried to have children, she approached it like a business transaction. No emotion, no warmth, just clinical efficiency. Kenji said nothing. He'd learned in 3 years of working for Preston that sometimes the CEO just needed to talk, not to be answered. I spent 12 years feeling inadequate, Preston continued. 12 years with a woman who made me feel like I was asking too much by wanting a family, by wanting warmth when I came home, by wanting a wife who actually wanted to be a wife instead of just someone who happened to live in the same house. He picked up the invitation, running his thumb over the embossed letters. When I met Thea, everything changed. She's warm, she's present. She came with Piper, and they welcomed me into their lives. That's what family feels like, Kenji. That's what I never had with Nora, and I want her to see it. I want her to understand exactly what she was incapable of providing. I see, sir. This gala is going to be perfect. I'm giving a speech about family, about gratitude, about finding the right partner. Make sure the AV team has the microphone ready. Already arranged, sir. Good. Dismissed. After Kenji left, Preston stood at the window for a long time. The city stretched out below, indifferent and eternal. Somewhere out there, Nora was living her life. Probably in some sterile office, drafting blueprints, married to her work just like she'd always been. He wondered if she was lonely. He hoped she was. He hoped she'd realize too late what she'd lost. In 3 weeks and 4 days, she'd walk into that ballroom and see everything he'd built without her. See the family she couldn't give him. See proof that he was the winner and she was the one who'd failed. Preston smiled at his reflection in the glass. 3 days later, the response came. Preston was in a meeting with developers when Kenji knocked and entered, which he never did unless it was important. Excuse me, Mr. Aldrich. You asked to be notified immediately. Preston looked up from the architectural plans spread across the conference table. Gentlemen, give me a moment. The 3 developers stepped outside. Kenji handed Preston his tablet. It was an email from an address he didn't recognize. The subject line read, Aldrich Foundation Gala Invitation. Preston opened it. The message was brief, professional, cold. Miss Nora Westfield accepts your invitation to the Aldrich Foundation Annual Christmas Gala on December 21st. She will attend alone. Please forward parking information. Regards, Harper Kim, assistant to Ms. Westfield. Preston read it twice. Then he handed the tablet back to Kenji. She's coming, he said. Yes, sir. Perfect. Everything is falling into place. That evening, Preston came home to his penthouse on the Upper East Side. It was a sprawling space with views of Central Park, decorated by an interior designer, who'd charged him $100,000 to make it look effortlessly elegant. Thea was in the living room, curled up on the cream-colored sofa with a book. Thea Lancaster was 43, beautiful in that polished, carefully maintained way that money allows. Blonde hair that was probably helped by an expensive colorist but looked natural enough. A slim figure, maintained by daily Pilates and a personal nutritionist. She'd been a widow when Preston met her 5 years ago, raising her daughter Piper alone after her first husband died of cancer. You're home early, Thea said, looking up from her book. Preston bent to kiss her forehead. Wanted to tell you the news. Nora's coming to the gala. Thea's smile faded slightly. Preston, what? Are you sure this is a good idea? Preston walked to the bar and poured himself 2 fingers of scotch. Expensive single malt, aged 25 years. It's a perfect idea. Inviting your ex-wife to publicly humiliate her doesn't seem perfect to me. It seems cruel. Preston turned to face his wife. Cruel? Thea, you don't understand what those 12 years were like. You don't understand how she made me feel. I know what you've told me, Thea said carefully. She set her book down. You've told me she was cold, that she prioritized her career, that she couldn't have children. But Preston, she was also going through something difficult. Fertility treatments are hard on a woman. They would have been easier if she'd approached them with any human emotion, Preston said. He took a sip of scotch. The burn felt good going down. When I met you, I finally understood what a real partnership feels like, what warmth feels like, what it's like to come home to someone who actually wants me there. I want Nora to see that. Thea stood up. She was wearing yoga pants and a cashmere sweater, casual elegance, that somehow made her look more beautiful than any ball gown could. She walked over to Preston and took his hand. Honey, I love you, but this obsession with showing up your ex-wife is beneath you. You're successful. You have everything. Why do you need her to see it? Because she needs to know she was wrong, Preston said. She needs to see that I wasn't the problem. She was... Thea looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression. Disappointment, maybe. Or concern. She squeezed his hand, and then let it go. I hope this gives you whatever it is you're looking for, she said quietly. Then she walked toward the bedroom, leaving Preston alone with his scotch and his vindication. Down the hall, in her bedroom painted lavender, 14-year-old Piper Lancaster sat on her bed with headphones on, deliberately not hearing her mother and stepfather's conversation. She'd gotten good at that over the 5 years since her mom married Preston. Good at being invisible. Good at not noticing the tension. Good at pretending this was a real family. While Preston Aldrich planned his moment of triumph in Manhattan, 300 miles away in a different city, in a different kind of life, Nora Westfield was having dinner with her sons. The kitchen was warm and chaotic. 4 13-year-old boys can make any space feel crowded. Owen was setting the table, moving with careful precision, making sure the forks were perfectly aligned. Everett had his nose in a book even as he carried plates from the cabinet to the table, somehow managing not to trip. Theo was telling an elaborate story about something that happened at soccer practice, his hands gesturing wildly. And Beckett was helping Nora drain pasta, quiet and observant as always. And then Marcus tried to do a bicycle kick and completely missed the ball and landed on his butt, Theo said, laughing at his own story. Coach Peters just stood there shaking his head. Language, Theo, Nora said automatically. But isn't a bad word, Mom, Theo protested. It's impolite at the dinner table. Owen brought the last plate to the table. Everything's ready, Mom. Nora looked at her sons, these 4 miraculous humans she'd somehow managed to raise alone for 13 years. They were getting so tall. All of them had shot up in the last year, growing toward the men they'd become. They had her auburn hair, though each wore it slightly differently. Owen kept his neat and short. Everett's was a bit longer, always falling in his eyes. Theo's stuck up in the back no matter how much he tried to tame it. Beckett's was somewhere in between, but they all had their father's gray eyes. Sharp, intelligent, piercing. Every time Nora looked at them, she saw Preston staring back at her. She'd made peace with that years ago. Come on, let's eat before it gets cold, Nora said. They sat around the kitchen table, a ritual they'd maintained since the boys were old enough to sit in chairs. No matter how busy life got, no matter how many projects Nora had at her architecture firm, no matter how much homework the boys had, they ate dinner together. Nora had made spaghetti carbonara, one of the few dishes she could consistently make well. Cooking had never been her strength, but she'd learned enough to keep 4 growing boys fed. How was school? She asked. Fine, 4 voices answered in unison. Nora smiled. I'm going to need more detail than that. I got my history test back, Everett said. 97. That's wonderful, honey. I only missed 1 because I spelled Charlemagne wrong, Everett continued. Which is stupid because I knew the answer. Spelling counts, Owen said primly. Nobody asked you, Everett shot back. Boys, Nora said. The warning in her voice was gentle but firm. Sorry, Mom, they said together. Beckett, how was the science fair project meeting? Nora asked. Beckett looked up from his pasta. He was the quietest of the 4, always thinking before speaking. Good. Mr. Henderson said our ecosystem model is one of the best he's seen. That's because you're a genius, Theo said, bumping his brother's shoulder affectionately. I'm not a genius. I just pay attention. Which makes you a genius compared to you, Owen said, pointing his fork at Theo. Hey! Theo protested. Nora listened to them bicker and banter, the familiar rhythm of her life. This was her family. This loud, chaotic, beautiful family she'd built from nothing. From abandonment and fear and loneliness and sheer stubborn determination not to let her sons feel unwanted even for a second. After dinner, while the boys cleared the table, a duty they rotated weekly, Nora went to her small home office. It was really just a converted bedroom, but it had a desk and a computer and space for her to work when she brought projects home. On her desk was a cream-colored envelope, gold lettering, expensive cardstock. She'd received it 3 days ago. She hadn't opened it in front of the boys. She'd waited until they were at school, and then she'd sat at this desk and stared at it for a full 10 minutes before finally slitting it open. The invitation to Preston's gala had been expected. She'd heard through mutual acquaintances that Preston was making it a major event this year. 200 guests, the Pierre Hotel, black tie, a charity fundraiser for children's education programs, which was ironic given that Preston had 4 children he knew nothing about. But it was the handwritten note at the bottom that had made Nora's hands shake. Come see what warmth looks like. Come see what a real family is. She'd read it 3 times. Then she'd laughed. Not a happy laugh. A bitter, disbelieving laugh that came from somewhere deep and wounded that she thought she'd healed years ago. After 13 years, Preston still thought she was the failure. Still thought she was the cold one, the broken one, the one incapable of family. He had no idea. No idea that 3 weeks after he'd filed for divorce, the fertility treatment they'd been trying for years had finally worked. No idea that she'd called him 23 times trying to tell him. No idea that she'd emailed, visited his office, begged his assistant to let her speak to him. No idea that his lawyers had sent her a letter threatening legal action if she continued to contact him. No idea that she'd been 8 weeks pregnant with quadruplets when that letter arrived, alone and terrified and abandoned. No idea that she'd given birth to 4 sons. His sons. Sons with his eyes and his chin and his stubborn streak. No idea that for 13 years she'd built a life around those boys. That she'd worked 80-hour weeks while nursing quadruplets. That she'd built Westfield and Associates from nothing while raising 4 infants alone. That she'd never taken a dime from him. Never asked for anything. Never exposed him publicly. She'd protected her sons from the scandal. Protected them from a father who didn't want them. Protected them from the media circus that would have erupted if anyone had. Known that Manhattan CEO Preston Aldrich had abandoned his pregnant wife. But now Preston wanted to humiliate her. Wanted to parade his new wife and stepdaughter in front of her. Wanted to prove he'd won. Nora picked up her phone. She dialed a number she had on speed dial. Westfield and Associates. This is Harper, her assistant answered. Harper, it's Nora. Send confirmation that I'll attend the Aldrich Foundation Gala. Keep it brief and professional. Are you sure, Miss Westfield? Harper's voice was concerned. Harper knew the whole story. She'd been with Nora since the beginning of the firm, had been there through the pregnancy, the birth, the early years of impossible juggling. I'm sure, Nora said. What are you planning? I'm going to give Preston Aldrich exactly what he asked for, Nora said. I'm going to show him what a real family looks like. After she hung up, Nora made 2 more calls. The first was to her lawyer, Rachel Fujimoto. Rachel, it's time, Nora said. I need you to prepare everything we discussed. Birth certificates, DNA results, the threatening letter from Preston's lawyers, all of it. Rachel was silent for a moment. Then she said, Nora, are you absolutely certain about this? The boys are young. This will change their lives. They already know about Preston, Nora said. They know he's their biological father. They know he wasn't there. I've never lied to them. But I've protected them from the public knowing. I think it's time that ended. Once you do this, there's no taking it back. I know. Okay, Rachel said. I'll have everything ready. The second call was to her sister Claire, who lived in Boston with her husband and 2 daughters. He did what? Claire's voice rose incredulously. He invited you to a gala to humiliate you? That man has some nerve. He has plenty of nerve, Nora said. She was smiling now. But so do I. What are you going to do? I'm going to bring the boys. Claire was quiet for a long moment. Oh my God, Nora, really? Really? He wants to see a real family. I'm going to show him 4 reasons why he lost everything. Those boys are going to be amazing, Claire said. They're going to walk in there and that man is going to lose his mind. I know. Do Owen and the others know yet? I'm telling them tonight. After dinner was cleaned up and homework was checked, Nora called all 4 boys into the living room. They sat on the couch in a row, so similar and yet so different. Owen sat up straight, always the responsible one. Everett had already pulled a book into his lap, trying to multitask. Theo was bouncing his leg, full of restless energy. Beckett was watching her carefully, reading her mood. I need to talk to you about something important, Nora said. 4 sets of gray eyes focused on her immediately. We're taking a trip in 3 weeks to New York City to attend a formal event. What kind of event? Owen asked. A Christmas gala. It's a charity fundraiser. Do we have to wear suits? Theo asked, making a face. Yes, you have to wear suits, Nora said, smiling. I'll take you shopping this weekend. Why are we going? Beckett asked. He was the one who always asked the question that mattered. Nora took a breath. This was the hard part. Because someone invited me. Someone from a long time ago. Someone I think you should meet. Who? Everett asked, though by the way his eyes widened slightly, Nora suspected he'd already guessed. Your biological father. The room went very quiet. The only sound was the heating system humming softly. Owen spoke first. Preston Aldrich. Yes. Why does he want to meet us now? Owen's voice was careful, controlled. He was always controlled. He doesn't, Nora said honestly. He doesn't know you're coming. He invited me to the gala because he wants to show me his new family. He wants to make me feel bad about myself. That's mean, Theo said, his face flushing with anger. Why would he do that? Because he doesn't know the truth, Nora said. He doesn't know about you. He doesn't know that I tried to tell him I was pregnant. He doesn't know that for 13 years I've raised 4 amazing sons alone. So we're going to tell him, Beckett said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Is this going to hurt you, Mom? Owen asked quietly. Seeing him again? Nora looked at her oldest son by 3 minutes, this boy who'd been trying to take care of her since he was old enough to understand she was doing everything alone. No, baby, she said. This isn't going to hurt me. This is going to set me free, set all of us free. What if he's mean to you? Everett asked. What if he says bad things? Then you'll see exactly who he is, Nora said. And you'll know that you're better than him, that you're kind and good and nothing like him. We're already nothing like him, Theo said fiercely. We're like you, Mom. Nora felt tears prick her eyes. She smiled and blinked them away. Thank you, sweetheart. Are you scared? Beckett asked. A little, Nora admitted. But mostly I'm ready. I'm ready for the truth to come out. I'm ready for you boys to not be a secret anymore. I'm ready for your father to see what he lost. He didn't lose anything, Owen said. He never had us to begin with. You're right, Nora said. He didn't. But he's about to learn exactly what that means. The next 3 weeks were a flurry of preparation. Nora took the boys shopping for suits. They found matching navy blue suits with crisp white shirts and red ties. The boys grumbled about having to dress up, but Nora could see they were also a little excited. This was an adventure. This was the mystery of their father finally being solved. Nora bought herself a simple black dress, nothing fancy, nothing that screamed, look at me. She wanted to blend in, to be forgettable, to be exactly what Preston expected right up until the moment she wasn't. At Westfield & Associates, her architecture firm, work continued. Nora had 20 employees now, a far cry from the solo practice she'd started 13 years ago while pregnant and terrified. Her firm had become one of the most respected in the region. They'd won awards. They'd completed major projects across the country. She'd done it all while raising quadruplets. Her current project was a library renovation in Boston, a beautiful historic building that needed modern updates while preserving its character. She was meeting with the client when Harper knocked on her office door. Miss Westfield, your sister is on line 2. Excuse me for just a moment, Nora said to her client. She picked up the phone. Claire, is everything okay? I'm coming to New York for the gala, Claire said without preamble. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. You're my sister and you're about to face down your horrible ex-husband and I'm going to be there to support you. I already booked a hotel room. I'm coming the day before and staying the night of... Nora felt a wave of gratitude. Thank you. Have you told Mom and Dad? Not yet. Tell them. They'll want to know. After work, Nora called her parents, who'd retired to Florida 5 years ago. Her mother answered on the second ring. Nora, how are my grandsons? They're wonderful, Mom, growing like weeds, but I'm calling because I need to tell you something. She explained about the invitation, about Preston's cruel note, about her decision to bring the boys. Her mother was silent for a long moment. Then she said, that man is going to regret the day he was born. Mom, I'm serious, Nora, after everything he put you through, after abandoning you when you were pregnant, after telling everyone you were the problem, He deserves this and so much more. I'm not doing it for revenge, Nora said. Then why are you doing it? Nora thought about that. Because the boys deserve to not be a secret. Because they deserve to exist without shame. Because Preston invited me to see his real family, and I want him to see mine. You're a better person than I am, her mother said. I'd want revenge. Maybe a little revenge, Nora admitted, smiling. Back in Manhattan, Preston's gala preparation was reaching fever pitch. He'd hired the best event planner in the city. The ballroom at the Pierre Hotel was being transformed into a winter wonderland. White roses flown in from Ecuador, evergreen branches from Vermont, gold candlesticks and crystal everywhere. Preston reviewed every detail personally. The menu, the wine list, the seating arrangements, the lighting, the music. Everything had to be perfect. He'd written and rewritten his speech a dozen times. He practiced it in his office, in front of the mirror, while driving. He wanted every word to land perfectly. He wanted to praise Thea and Piper. He wanted to talk about family and warmth and finding the right person. And he wanted to make it crystal clear, without naming names, that his first marriage had been cold and empty and doomed from the start. Thea's concerns about the gala had intensified as December progressed. She brought it up one evening while they were getting ready for bed. Preston, I'm asking you one more time to reconsider what you're planning to say in your speech. Preston was in his closet, organizing his ties. There's nothing to reconsider. I'm speaking from the heart about family. You're speaking from ego about revenge. Preston turned to look at his wife. Excuse me? Thea sat on the edge of their bed. She looked tired. I've watched you obsess over this for weeks. Every conversation comes back to Nora. What she'll think, what she'll feel, how she'll react. You're more focused on your ex-wife than you are on your actual wife. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time we had a conversation that didn't involve the gala or Nora or your need to prove something? Preston walked over and sat next to her. He took her hand. Thea, this is important to me. I need closure. I need her to understand that I wasn't the problem. But what if you were? Thea said softly. What if at least some of the problem was you? Preston dropped her hand. I can't believe you're saying this. I love you, Preston, but I'm not blind. You've told me 1,000 times that Nora was cold and career-focused, but you're also cold sometimes. You're also career-focused. Maybe you both were. Maybe you were just two people who weren't right for each other. She couldn't have children, Preston said. No, you couldn't have children together. There's a difference. Preston stood up. I don't want to argue about this. Not 3 days before the gala. Thea looked up at him. I'll be there. I'll smile and play my part. But Preston, I'm telling you, you're going to regret this. No, Preston said firmly. I'm not. The day before the gala, Nora and the boys flew from their home city to New York. They stayed at a hotel in Midtown, nothing fancy but comfortable. The boys were excited about being in Manhattan. They wanted to go to Times Square, to see the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, to visit the M&M store. Nora took them. They spent the day playing tourist, eating too much junk food, taking silly pictures. It was important to her that this trip wasn't just about confronting Preston. It was about the boys having good memories, about them seeing that they were loved and wanted, and that this trip was an adventure, not a trauma. That evening, after the boys were asleep in their hotel room, Nora sat by the window looking out at the glittering city. Her sister Claire had arrived and was staying in a room down the hall. She knocked softly on the connecting door. Can't sleep? Claire asked. Too much on my mind. Claire sat in the other chair by the window. She was 3 years younger than Nora, a lawyer with a quick smile and fierce protective instinct when it came to her big sister. Are you really ready for this? Claire asked. I think so. Those boys are going to blow his mind. I know. He's going to lose everything. His reputation, his marriage probably, definitely his sense of superiority. I know that too. And you're okay with that? Nora looked at her sister. Claire, for 13 years I've protected him. I never told anyone he abandoned me while I was pregnant. I never sued for child support. I never exposed him, publicly. I raised our sons alone and never spoke badly about him to anyone. I protected his reputation because I didn't want my sons to grow up in a scandal. I know you did, but he invited me to humiliate me. He wrote a cruel note and invited me to watch him celebrate the family I supposedly couldn't give him. He has no idea what I sacrificed, what I built, what I survived. So yes, I'm okay with him learning the truth. I'm okay with consequences. Claire reached over and squeezed her hand. Those boys are lucky to have you as a mother. I'm lucky to have them. The morning of December 21st dawned cold and clear. Nora woke early and ordered room service breakfast for herself and the boys. They ate pancakes and bacon and fresh fruit, the boys, chattering about what the gala would be like, whether there would be famous people there, if the food would be fancy. Remember, Nora said as they finished eating, we're going to arrive after the event has started. We're not going early. We're arriving at exactly 8:15. Why? Theo asked. Because timing matters, Nora said. We want everyone to already be there. We want them settled and comfortable. And then we're going to give them something to remember. At 6 o'clock, Nora started getting the boys ready. 4 13-year-old boys in one bathroom made for chaos, but they managed. She helped them with their ties, making sure each knot was perfect. She combed their hair, fixed their collars, made sure their shoes were shined. They looked so handsome, so grown up, so much like their father, and yet entirely their own people. Nora dressed simply. The black dress, minimal makeup, her auburn hair pulled back in a low twist. She looked in the mirror and saw a 50-year-old woman who'd survived everything life threw at her and came out stronger. At 7:30, they left the hotel. Nora had hired a Mercedes van and a professional driver. The boys piled into the back, nervous energy making them fidgety. Nora sat in the front passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap, breathing slowly and steadily. The drive to the Pierre Hotel took 20 minutes through Manhattan traffic. Christmas lights glittered on every building. The city was alive with holiday energy. The van pulled up to the hotel at exactly 8:14. Wait here, Nora told the driver. I'm going to go inside first. When I call, bring the van to the front entrance and let the boys out. Yes, ma'am. Nora turned to look at her sons. 4 identical faces looking back at her with trust and love and nervousness. Are you ready? She asked. Are you? Owen countered. I am. Then we're ready too, Everett said. We're right here with you, Mom, Theo added. Beckett just nodded, but his eyes said everything. Nora got out of the van. She walked up the steps of the Pierre Hotel. The doorman opened the door for her. She stepped into the warm, glittering lobby. She could hear music coming from the ballroom down the hall. String quartet playing classical Christmas carols. She walked toward the sound. The ballroom doors were open. Inside, she could see 200 people in evening gowns and tuxedos. She could see white roses and gold candlesticks. She could see tables laden with fine china and crystal. And at the center of it all, at the microphone on a small stage, she saw Preston. He looked older. His hair was grayer than she remembered. But he still had that commanding presence, that certainty that he belonged at the center of attention. Nora walked into the ballroom. A few people glanced at her, then looked away. She was nobody special. Just another guest in a simple black dress. She found a seat at a table near the back. Dinner was already finished. Dessert plates were being cleared. Preston was preparing to give his speech. Nora checked her watch. 8:17. Perfect timing. Preston tapped the microphone. The room quieted. All conversation stopped. All eyes turned to him. Good evening, everyone, Preston said. His voice was warm, confident, commanding. Thank you all for coming to the Aldrich Foundation's annual Christmas Gala. Your generosity supports children's education programs across the city, and I'm deeply grateful for each of you. Polite applause rippled through the room. Tonight, Preston continued, I want to talk about something personal. I want to talk about family. Nora's heart started beating faster. Family is everything, Preston said. It's the foundation of a meaningful life. It's what gives us purpose and joy and hope for the future. For many years I searched for that. I searched for a partner who understood the value of family, who understood that building something together requires warmth and presence and sacrifice. Several people in the crowd nodded. Nora saw a woman in a champagne-colored gown at the head table. That must be Thea, the new wife. She looked beautiful, but uncomfortable. 5 years ago, Preston said, I found that partner. Thea came into my life and showed me what true partnership looks like. She brought her wonderful daughter, Piper, and together we've built something real, something warm, something that feels like home. More applause. Thea smiled, but it looked forced. Preston's voice took on an edge. Before Thea, I was in a very different kind of marriage. A marriage that taught me what family shouldn't look like. A marriage where career always came first. Where ambition mattered more than connection. where fertility treatments were approached like business transactions instead of the deeply human, emotional journey they are. The room got quieter. People were leaning forward now, sensing drama. Nora sat perfectly still. Her face showed nothing, but her hands were clenched in her lap. "I spent 12 years with someone who was fundamentally incapable of warmth," Preston said. "Someone who couldn't understand that being a wife means being present, being there, choosing your partner over your work. I spent 12 years hoping she would change, hoping she would soften, hoping she would want children as much as I did. But some people aren't built for family. Some people are too cold, too selfish, too career-obsessed to ever truly love another person." A few people in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. This was supposed to be a charity gala, not a public therapy session about Preston's failed marriage. But Preston wasn't done. "I'm grateful I learned that lesson," he said. "I'm grateful I finally understood that I couldn't force someone to be warm who was fundamentally cold, that I couldn't force someone to want children who was incapable of that kind of selflessness. And I'm grateful that I found someone who understands what family really means." He gestured to Thea and Piper. "This is family," Preston said. "This is what it looks like when two people truly commit to each other. When they prioritize love over ambition. When they build a home together instead of living like strangers in the same house." Some people applauded. Others looked around uncomfortably. And a few people, the ones who knew Preston's history, looked toward the back of the room where Nora sat. Preston saw her then. For the first time, he noticed his ex-wife sitting calmly at a table near the entrance. She wasn't crying. She wasn't looking down in shame. She was just watching him with those calm brown eyes. And she was smiling. It confused him. Why was she smiling? "Some people are built for family," Preston said, looking directly at Nora now. "And some people simply aren't. That's not a judgment. It's just the truth. Some people are too selfish, too cold, too focused on themselves to ever understand what it means to truly love another person, to put someone else first, to sacrifice for something bigger than themselves." Nora stood up. The room went completely silent. She didn't look angry. She didn't look hurt. She looked calm, peaceful, almost amused. She started walking toward the front of the ballroom. Her heels clicked on the marble floor. Every eye in the room followed her. Phones came out. People started recording. Preston's prepared speech vanished from his mind. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to sit there quietly. She was supposed to be humiliated. Nora reached the front of the room. She stopped about 10 feet from Preston. She looked at him directly. "You're right, Preston," she said. Her voice was quiet, but in the silent room, everyone heard perfectly. "Some people are built for family, and some people don't deserve the family they have." Preston opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Nora turned away from him. She walked toward the ballroom entrance, toward the massive oak doors that led to the hotel lobby. Preston found his voice. "Nora, what are you doing?" She didn't answer. She just kept walking. She reached the doors. She pushed them open. The crowd erupted in whispers. Everyone was standing now, craning their necks to see. Preston stepped off the small stage and followed Nora. He had to know what she was doing. He had to regain control of this situation. The crowd followed him like a wave. 200 people in evening gowns and tuxedos flooding toward the ballroom entrance. They spilled out into the hotel lobby. Through the glass doors, they could see the front entrance. Snow was falling lightly, illuminated by the street lamps. And at the curb, a black Mercedes van was parked. Nora walked down the hotel steps. She walked to the van. She opened the back door. Preston stood at the top of the steps, frozen. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. What was happening? A boy stepped out of the van. He was young, maybe 13 or 14. He wore a navy blue suit with a white shirt and red tie. He had auburn hair. He had gray eyes. Preston's eyes. The crowd behind Preston gasped. Phones came out everywhere. People started recording. Then the left side door opened. Another boy stepped out, identical to the first. Same suit, same hair, same eyes. "Oh my God," someone in the crowd said. The right door opened again. A third boy, identical. "This can't be real," someone else whispered. The left door opened again. A fourth boy. 4 identical boys in matching navy suits, standing in a line next to the Mercedes van. Preston felt his legs weaken. He grabbed the iron railing to steady himself. His vision blurred. His heart hammered so hard he thought he might be having a heart attack. The 4 boys walked up the hotel steps in a careful line. They moved in sync, clearly nervous but holding themselves with dignity. They reached the top of the steps. They stood next to Nora. She put her hands on 2 of their shoulders. She looked at Preston. "This is Owen," she said, touching the first boy's shoulder. "This is Everett, the second boy. This is Theo, the third. And this is Beckett, the fourth." The boys looked at Preston with curious, guarded expressions. 4 sets of gray eyes. His eyes, looking at him from faces that were young versions of his own face. Preston's champagne glass, which he'd somehow carried with him from the ballroom, fell from his hand. It shattered on the marble steps. Glass exploded. Champagne splashed across the stone. The sound seemed impossibly loud in the shocked silence. "They're quadruplets," Nora said calmly. "They're 13 years old." She paused. The entire crowd held its breath. "They're your sons, Preston." The crowd erupted, not in applause, in shocked gasps and frantic whispers and the sound of 200. People pulling out their phones to capture this impossible moment. Preston stood on the hotel steps, surrounded by Manhattan's elite, staring at 4 boys who looked exactly like him. His mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. No words came out. His brain couldn't process what his eyes were seeing. 4 sons. 4. Thea appeared next to him, her champagne gown swishing as she moved. She grabbed his arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his tuxedo sleeve. "Preston," she hissed. "Preston, what is this? Who are these children?" Preston couldn't answer. He was staring at the boys, at their faces, at their eyes. Gray eyes exactly like his own, looking back at him with curiosity and caution and something else. Something that might have been pity. Nora stood between Preston and the boys like a shield. Her simple black dress looked almost defiant in its plainness against the sea of designer gowns behind her. She looked at Preston with an expression he couldn't read. Not anger, not triumph. Something quieter, something that looked like closure. "How?" Preston finally managed to whisper. "How is this possible? How do you think?" Nora said. Her voice was steady. "The fertility treatment worked. Finally. 3 weeks after you filed for divorce." Thea made a sound like she'd been slapped. 3 weeks after the divorce? "I tried to tell him," Nora said, looking at Thea now. "I called, I emailed, I went to his office, he blocked my number, he had his assistant return my emails unopened. He had security refuse to let me up to see him." "That's not," Preston started, but his voice cracked. "I didn't know. I didn't know you were pregnant." "You didn't want to know," Nora corrected. "There's a difference." Owen, the first boy, looked up at his mother. "Mom, there are a lot of people staring." "I know, baby." "We won't stay long," Nora said softly. She touched his shoulder gently. Preston took a step down the stairs. He needed to get closer. He needed to see them better. He needed to understand how this was real. But Nora moved quickly. She stepped between Preston and the boys, blocking his path. "No," she said firmly. "They're my sons," Preston said. His voice was getting louder, desperate. "I have a right to see them, to talk to them." "You have no rights," Nora said. "You gave up your rights when you refused to answer my calls, when you blocked my emails, when your lawyers sent me that threatening letter." "What threatening letter?" Thea asked. Her voice was getting shrill. "Preston, what is she talking about?" From the crowd, a woman in a red dress pushed forward. She had a professional camera and a look of absolute glee on her face. Preston recognized her. Diana Morrison, gossip blogger, 2 million followers. This was her dream story. "Miss Westfield," Diana called out, her camera trained on Nora and the boys. "Can you tell us how long you've been raising these children alone?" 13 years, Nora said calmly. The crowd gasped again. Phones were held higher. Videos were recording. This was going to be everywhere in minutes. "And did Mr. Aldrich know about them?" Diana pressed. "I tried to tell him," Nora said. "He refused all contact." "That's a lie," Preston shouted. "I never got any messages about children. I would have responded. I would have—" Nora reached into her small black purse. She pulled out an envelope. She held it out to Preston. "Take it," she said. Preston's hand shook as he reached for the envelope. The crowd pressed closer, everyone trying to see. He opened it with fumbling fingers. Inside were documents. Official documents. Preston's eyes scanned them rapidly, his brain struggling to process each new piece of information. Birth certificates. 4 of them. Owen Westfield, born August 15th, 13 years ago, at 6:32 in the morning. Everett Westfield, born at 6:38. Theo Westfield, born at 6:41. Beckett Westfield, born at 6:47. Mother, Nora Westfield. Father, unknown. Unknown? Preston read aloud. His voice shook. Why does it say unknown? Because you weren't there, Nora said simply. You refused all contact. So I left it blank. Preston flipped to the next page. Medical records. High-risk quadruplet pregnancy. Hospital bills. 48 hours of labor. Emergency C-section. 4 premature infants in the NICU for 3 weeks. All of it paid by Nora. Every single bill had her name on it. The next document made Preston's blood run cold. It was a letter on official law firm letterhead. Harrington and Associates, his lawyers, dated 13 years ago, 2 months after the divorce was finalized. Preston read it aloud, his voice hollow. Dear Ms. Westfield, this letter is to inform you that our client, Mr. Preston Aldrich, refuses all contact with you. Any claims regarding pregnancy or potential children will not be acknowledged. If you pursue any legal claims, Mr. Aldrich will use all available legal means to protect himself. We strongly advise you to move forward with your life and cease all attempts at contact. Sincerely, Marcus Harrington, attorney at law. The silence that followed was deafening. Thea took 2 steps away from Preston. Her face had gone from red to white to red again. You told your lawyers to threaten her while she was pregnant? I didn't know she was pregnant, Preston said. He was looking at Thea now, pleading. I swear I didn't know, but you told them to refuse all contact, Thea said. You told them to threaten her if she tried to reach you. Preston had no answer for that, because it was true. After the divorce, he'd been so angry at Nora, so hurt, so determined to move on. He'd told Marcus to make sure Nora never contacted him again, to do whatever was necessary to make her disappear from his life. He'd never ask what that meant. He just wanted her gone. I signed papers, Nora said. She was still standing between Preston and the boys, protective and unmovable. I signed papers giving up any financial claims against you. No child support, no medical expenses, nothing. Your lawyers made it very clear that if I asked for anything, you would destroy me in court. So I took nothing, not $1. I paid for everything myself. Alone? A voice from the crowd called out, You raised quadruplets completely alone? Yes, Nora said. How? Another voice asked. I worked, Nora said simply. I built my architecture firm. I hired help when I needed it. I did what needed to be done. Everett, the second boy, tugged on Nora's sleeve. Mom, can we go now? His voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. The crowd had gone completely silent, hanging on every word. Soon, sweetheart, Nora said. Preston took another step forward. He was crying now, tears running down his face. His perfect tuxedo, his perfect event, his perfect life, all of it crumbling around him like the shattered champagne glass at his feet. Please, he said. Please, just let me talk to them, just for a minute. No, Nora said. I'm begging you. Preston fell to his knees on the hotel steps. Glass from the broken champagne flute cut into his expensive trousers. He didn't care. Please, they're my sons. I didn't know they existed, but now I do. Please let me know them. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Preston Aldrich, billionaire CEO, knelt on the steps of the Pierre Hotel and begged his ex-wife for a chance to meet the sons he'd never known he had. Nora looked down at him. Her face was sad but firm. You had chances, Preston. 13 years ago you had chances. You had chances to answer my calls, to read my emails, to let me into your office. You chose not to. I didn't know what you wanted to tell me, Preston said. You didn't care, Nora corrected. You wanted me erased from your life. You got exactly what you wanted. I'll give them everything, Preston said desperately. Money, trust funds, the best schools, the best everything. Anything they need, anything you need. They don't need your money, Nora said. They have everything they need. They have a home. They go to excellent schools. They play soccer. They take piano lessons. They have friends and hobbies and a good life. They have love. They have me. But I'm their father, Preston said. Nora's eyes hardened. No. A father is someone who shows up, someone who changes diapers at 3 in the morning, someone who reads bedtime stories and kisses scraped knees, someone who teaches them to ride bikes and helps with homework and sits in the audience at school plays. You're not their father, Preston. You're just a man who shares their DNA. Preston covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. He was crying in front of 200 people and he didn't care. He just learned he had 4 sons and they were standing 10 feet away and he couldn't touch them, couldn't talk to them, couldn't know them. From somewhere in the crowd, a man's voice called out, "Mr. Aldrich, you just gave a speech about people who are too selfish for family. Looks like you were talking about yourself." A few people in the crowd laughed. Nervous, shocked laughter. Thea walked down the steps past Preston. She stopped in front of Nora. The 2 women looked at each other. Thea's eyes were full of tears. "I'm sorry," Thea said quietly. "I didn't know. He told me you couldn't have children. He told me you were the reason the marriage failed." "I know what he told you," Nora said. Not unkindly. "Those boys," Thea said, looking at the 4 identical faces watching her. "They're really his." "Yes. And you raised them alone for 13 years?" "Yes." Thea looked back at Preston, still on his knees on the steps. When she spoke again, her voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "We're done, Preston. I'm filing for divorce." She walked back up the steps into the hotel, leaving Preston kneeling alone. 14-year-old Piper stood in the crowd looking lost and confused. One of the hotel staff members touched her shoulder gently and led her inside after her mother. Nora took Theo's hand with her right hand and Beckett's hand with her left. "Boys, we're leaving." The 4 sons turned in unison. They walked back down the steps toward the Mercedes van, Owen and Everett in front, Theo and Beckett holding their mother's hands, moving together like they'd done this dance 1,000 times before. Preston lifted his head. "Lena, wait. Please, don't go. Not yet." But Nora didn't stop, didn't turn around. She just kept walking with her 4 sons. Preston tried to stand. He put his hands on the stone steps to push himself up, but his legs were shaking too badly. He collapsed back onto his knees. "Nora," he called out again. "Please." The boys reached the van. The driver opened the doors. Owen climbed in first, then Everett, then Theo, then Beckett. They sat in a row in the back seat. Nora climbed in last. She sat in the middle, 2 boys on each side of her. The door closed. The engine started. Preston watched from his knees on the hotel steps as the black Mercedes van pulled away from the curb. It drove slowly through the snowy Manhattan night. It reached the corner. It turned. And then it was gone. His sons were gone. 4 sons he hadn't known existed until 10 minutes ago. 4 sons who had his eyes and his face and his blood. 4 sons who'd lived 13 years without him. Gone. The crowd stood, in shocked silence, for another moment. Then the whispers started again. Then people started moving, walking back into the hotel, getting their coats, leaving. This gala was over. Diana Morrison was already on her phone, uploading video. Within minutes, it would be everywhere. If you're watching this and your heart is breaking for those 4 boys, for Nora, even for Preston and his self-inflicted tragedy, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message about consequences and truth. And comment below telling me what you think happens next, because this story is far from over. Stay with me. A man in an expensive suit walked over to Preston. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair. His name was Robert Davenport, and he'd been Preston's business partner for 15 years. "Preston," Robert said quietly, "get up. Come inside." Preston looked up at him. "Did you see them, Robert? Did you see my sons?" "I saw them. Everyone saw them. Now get up before this gets any worse." "How could it get worse?" Robert gestured to the crowd, still lingering, still filming. "Every second you stay on your knees is another second of video that's going to be on every news site and social media platform by morning. Get up." Preston finally managed to stand. His knees were bleeding from the broken glass. His tuxedo was ruined. His face was wet with tears. He looked like a broken man. Robert took his arm and led him back into the hotel. They went through a side entrance, avoiding the ballroom where guests were gathering their things and talking in excited, scandalized voices. Robert found an empty conference room. He pushed Preston into a chair. He closed the door. "What just happened out there?" Robert asked. "I have 4 sons," Preston said. He was staring at nothing. "4 sons I never knew existed. So it's true. Nora was pregnant when you divorced. 3 weeks after I filed, the fertility treatment finally worked." Preston laughed bitterly. "After 12 years of trying, after I'd given up, after I'd blamed her for everything, it finally worked. And you didn't know?" "She tried to tell me. I blocked her. I had Marcus send her that threatening letter." Preston put his head in his hands. "Oh God, Robert, what have I done?" "You destroyed your life," Robert said bluntly. "That's what you did." Preston looked up at him. "You're supposed to be my friend. I am your friend. That's why I'm telling you the truth. You abandoned 4 children, you threatened their mother, and then you invited her to a public event to humiliate her for something that wasn't her fault. What did you think was going to happen?" "I didn't know about the children," Preston said again. "Because you didn't want to know," Robert said. "You wanted Nora gone. You got your wish, and you missed 13 years with your own sons." Preston stood up. He started pacing the small conference room. "I need to fix this. I need to see them, talk to them, make them understand." "Understand what? That their father abandoned their mother while she was pregnant? That he spent 13 years living in luxury while she raised them alone? What exactly do you want them to understand, Preston?" "That I didn't know," Preston shouted. "That I would have been there if I'd known." "Would you?" Robert asked quietly. "Would you really? You didn't want children with Nora. You said she was too cold, too career-focused. You blamed her for the fertility struggles. If she'd managed to tell you she was pregnant, would you have believed the children were yours? Or would you have accused her of trying to trap you?" Preston opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. Because Robert was right. If Nora had somehow gotten through to him 13 years ago and told him she was pregnant, he probably would have accused her of lying, of trying to manipulate him, of using pregnancy to save a marriage that was already over. He would have demanded DNA tests. He would have fought her. He would have made everything worse. "I need a lawyer," Preston said. "You need a therapist," Robert countered. "But yes, you probably need a lawyer too." Over the next 3 days, Preston's world collapsed in slow motion. The video from the gala went viral. Diana Morrison's footage was viewed 80 million times in 48 hours. Every news outlet picked up the story. Manhattan CEO's secret quadruplets revealed. Billionaire abandoned pregnant wife. The quotes from Preston's speech contrasted against the image of 4 identical boys in navy suits became a meme. Preston's phone rang constantly. He stopped answering. His email inbox filled with thousands of messages. Reporters requesting interviews. Business partners demanding explanations. Friends asking if it was true. Strangers sending hate mail. His social media accounts were flooded with comments. Most of them were brutal. He abandoned 4 children while living in a mansion. Disgusting. Those boys are beautiful, and he missed their entire childhood because he was too proud to answer a phone call. The speech he gave right before they showed up. The irony is incredible. Nora Westfield is a hero for raising quadruplets alone while building a successful career. Preston Aldrich is exactly what's wrong with men who blame women for everything. On Christmas Eve, 3 days after the gala, Thea's lawyer delivered divorce papers to Preston's penthouse. Preston signed them without reading them. Thea wasn't asking for much, just her freedom and custody of Piper. She wanted nothing else from him. There was a handwritten note from Thea. "Preston, I married you because I thought you were a good man who'd been hurt by a cold woman. I realize now that you were a hurt man who blamed everyone but yourself. You lied to me about Nora. You lied about why your marriage ended. You probably lied about 100 other things I'll never know about. I can't be married to someone who abandons his own children. I can't trust someone who refuses to take responsibility for his choices. I hope someday you figure out who you really are, but I won't be there to see it. Goodbye. Thea." Preston sat alone in his penthouse reading Thea's note over and over. On the coffee table in front of him were the documents Nora had given him. Birth certificates, medical records, his lawyer's threatening letter, proof of 4 sons he'd never known, 4 lives he'd missed, 13 years gone forever. His lawyer, Felix Harper, came to the penthouse on December 26th. Felix was 55, expensive, and very good at his job. He'd handled Preston's first divorce from Nora. He'd written the threatening letter that had kept her away. "We need to discuss the children," Felix said, sitting across from Preston. "What about them?" You're their biological father. You have rights. We can petition for DNA testing, for visitation, for custody arrangements. Preston looked at Felix like he was insane. They're 13 years old. Nora raised them alone for 13 years. What rights do I have? Felix pulled out a legal pad. Legally, you have parental rights. Biology matters. We can argue that you were deceived, that Nora hid the children from you. She tried to tell me, Preston said. I refused to listen. That's your version of events. We can present a different narrative. What narrative? The truth is on video. The truth is in that letter you sent her telling her to stay away. The truth is everywhere. Felix was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Preston, do you want to pursue a relationship with these boys or not? Of course I do. Then we need to be strategic. We need to control the narrative. We need to make you sympathetic. How? How am I sympathetic? I abandoned 4 children I didn't know existed because I was too proud to answer my ex-wife's phone calls. You didn't know they existed. That's the key point. You can't abandon children you don't know about. Preston stood up. He walked to the window. Below, Central Park was covered in snow. The city glittered with Christmas lights. Somewhere out there, his 4 sons were celebrating the holidays without him. They'd celebrated 13 Christmases without him, 13 birthdays, 13 first days of school. Get out, Felix, Preston said quietly. What? Get out of my house. You're fired. Preston, you need legal representation, especially now. Preston turned to face his lawyer. You sent that letter to Nora. You threatened her while she was pregnant with quadruplets. You kept me from knowing my own children. You told me to cut off all contact, Felix said. I was following your instructions. I know, and that's my fault, not yours. But I can't look at you without seeing that letter, so get out. After Felix left, Preston sat alone in his penthouse for hours. Silent, thinking, the weight of 13 years of mistakes pressing down on him like the sky was falling. His phone rang. He almost didn't answer, but it was Robert Davenport, and Robert had been honest with him when everyone else was scrambling. Robert, Preston answered. Emergency board meeting tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. You need to be there. Why? Because the board is voting on whether to force you to step down as CEO of Aldrich Properties. Preston closed his eyes. Of course they were. Okay. Preston, you need to prepare. You need a strategy. You need to fight this. Why? Because it's your company. You built it. I built it on lies, Preston said. I built it while my sons were growing up without me. What's the point of keeping it? The point is survival. The point is you still have a future even if you destroyed your past. Do the first. Preston asked. Do I really? The next morning, Preston sat at the head of the conference table in Aldrich Properties boardroom. 12 board members sat around the table. People he'd worked with for years. People who'd made millions from the company he built. Now they were looking at him like he was toxic. The board chairman, Donald Westbrook, spoke first. Preston, I think you know why we're here. Yes. The scandal from the gala has created significant problems for this company. Investors are concerned. Partners are reconsidering contracts. Our reputation is damaged. I understand, Preston said. We need you to step down as CEO. Temporarily. Until the scandal dies down. How long is temporarily? 6 months, maybe a year. Preston looked around the table at 12 faces trying to look sympathetic, but mostly just looking uncomfortable. These people didn't care about him. They cared about profits. They cared about reputation. They cared about protecting themselves. I'll resign completely, Preston said. The board members looked at each other in surprise. You don't have to resign, Donald said. Just step back for a while. No, I resign. Effective immediately. I'll sell my shares back to the company. I'll sign whatever documents you need. I'm done. Preston, think about this, another board member said. Don't make emotional decisions. This is the least emotional decision I've made in years, Preston said. He stood up. I'll have my lawyer send the paperwork. Goodbye. He walked out of the boardroom for the last time. Behind him, he could hear the board members talking in shocked voices. Let them talk. Let them have the company. It meant nothing to him now. Over the next months, Preston's life continued its slow-motion collapse. He sold the penthouse. Too big, too empty, too full of memories of a life that had been built on sand. He bought a small apartment in the West Village, 2 bedrooms. Simple. Quiet. He sold his shares in Aldrich Properties for $40 million. He put half in savings. He donated the other half to children's charities. It felt like blood money. Money earned while his sons grew up without him. He started seeing a therapist. Dr. Raymond Foster was recommended by Robert Davenport. Dr. Foster was 60 years old with kind eyes and an office that smelled like leather and old books. "Why are you here, Preston?" "Doctor," Foster asked in their first session. "Because I destroyed my life," Preston said. "Tell me about that." Preston told him everything. The 12 years with Nora, the fertility struggles, his resentment, his blame, the divorce, the blocked calls, the threatening letter, the gala, the 4 sons stepping out of that van. Dr. Foster listened without judgment. He took notes. He asked questions. "What do you want now?" "Doctor," Foster asked, "I want to know my sons. Will their mother allow that?" "No. Then what do you really want?" Preston thought about that for a long time. "I want to deserve them. I want to become the kind of man who would deserve to know them, even if I never get that chance." "That's a good answer," Dr. Foster said. "That's where we'll start." Over months of therapy, Preston slowly began to see the truth. He'd spent his entire marriage to Nora blaming her for his own inadequacy. When the fertility treatments didn't work, he felt like less of a man. Instead of dealing with that feeling, he projected it onto Nora. He called her cold when really, he was the one who'd shut down. He called her career-obsessed when really he resented that she had something she was passionate about besides him. He'd turned his own fear and pain into weapons against her, and then he'd abandoned her when she needed him most. "Do you think you deserve to know your sons, Doctor?" Foster asked one session, 6 months in. "No," Preston said. "I don't deserve them. I don't deserve anything from them." "Then why do you still want to see them?" "Because they're mine. Because I'm theirs." Preston corrected himself. "No, because I'm part of their story whether I was there or not. Because I want to know them even if I don't deserve to." Preston tried to reach out to Nora multiple times over the following years. He sent letters to her architecture firm. Every single one came back unopened. Returned to sender. He tried to send birthday gifts for the boys. Baseball gloves, books, gift cards. Everything came back. Refused. He set up trust funds for each boy. $500,000 each. He had his new lawyer contact Nora's lawyer with the information. Everything was sent back with a note from Nora's lawyer. "Your money is not wanted or needed. My client has provided everything her sons require without your assistance for 14 years. She will continue to do so. Do not contact this office again." Preston stopped trying to send things, but he couldn't stop thinking about them. He'd lie awake at night imagining what they were doing. Were they still playing soccer? Were they still taking piano lessons? What were their favorite subjects in school? Did they have girlfriends? What did they want to be when they grew up? He had 4 sons and he knew nothing about them except what he'd seen in that one moment outside the Pierre Hotel. He followed Nora's career from a distance. Westfield and Associates was thriving. She won major awards for her designs, a library in Boston, a community center in Philadelphia, a museum in Chicago. She was interviewed in architecture magazines. The interviewers always asked if she had family. "I have 4 sons," she always said. "They're my whole world." How do you balance such a demanding career with raising quadruplets? You make it work, you prioritize, you show up, you do the work. There's no secret. Preston read every interview, every article, looking for mentions of the boys, looking for any glimpse into their lives. 3 years passed, then 4, then 5. Preston was 58 now. His hair had gone completely gray. He looked older than his years. Regret ages a person faster than time. He lived quietly in his small apartment. He ran a modest consulting business, just enough to stay busy. He went to therapy every week. He wrote letters to his sons that he never sent. He kept them in a box in his closet. Hundreds of letters to children who didn't know him. One evening in late autumn, Preston was making dinner in his small kitchen when his phone chimed with an email notification. He almost ignored it. Most of his emails were spam or business inquiries he had no interest in, but something made him check. The sender was listed as Owen Westfield. Preston's heart stopped. His hand started shaking so badly he almost dropped his phone. He sat down at his kitchen table. He opened the email. "Mr. Aldrich, my name is Owen. My brothers and I, Everett, Theo, and Beckett, wanted to reach out. We're 18 now. We graduated from high school last spring. We're all in college now. We've talked a lot about you over the years. Our mom never spoke badly about you. She was honest about what happened, but she wasn't cruel. We know you didn't know about us. We know you refused contact when she tried to tell you. We know you missed our entire childhood. We're not writing to forgive you or to start a relationship. We're writing because we're curious. We wanted to see if you'd respond. If you want to write back, you can. If you don't, we understand. Owen. Preston read the email 10 times. His eyes blurred with tears. His sons, reaching out. After 5 years, after 18 years of not knowing them, he started typing immediately. His fingers fumbled on the keyboard. He deleted and retyped a dozen times. Finally, he managed to write something coherent. Owen, Everett, Theo, and Beckett. Yes, I want to write back. I want to know you, if you'll let me. I know I have no right to ask. I know I failed you and your mother in every possible way. But I think about you every day. I have for 5 years since the night I learned you existed. If you're willing to talk, I would be grateful for any time you'd give me. I understand if you're not willing. Whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. Even though I don't know you, I'm proud that you exist, that you're out in the world, that you graduated high school and you're in college and you're building your lives. Preston. He hit send before he could second guess himself. Then he sat at his kitchen table staring at his phone. Waiting. 3 days later, Owen responded. We talked about it, the 4 of us. We decided we'd like to meet you once, just to see who you are, not to start a relationship, just to understand where we came from. We'll be in Manhattan over Thanksgiving break. We could meet at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Let us know if you're interested. Owen. Preston's hands shook as he typed his response. Yes, anywhere, anytime. Just tell me when and where. Owen sent back details. Saturday, after Thanksgiving. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. A small coffee shop called The Grind in Greenwich Village. Preston confirmed immediately. Then he sat in his apartment and cried. He was going to meet his sons. 5 years after learning they existed. 18 years after they were born. He was finally going to meet them. The days until Thanksgiving crawled by like years. Preston couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. He practiced what he would say. He rehearsed apologies and explanations. He bought new clothes, then decided they looked too try-hard. He bought different clothes. He got a haircut. He paced his apartment until he wore a path in the carpet. Finally, Saturday came. Preston arrived at The Grind 30 minutes early. It was a tiny place, maybe 6 tables, exposed brick walls, the smell of coffee and cinnamon. He ordered black coffee he wouldn't drink and sat at a corner table. He watched the door. At 2 o'clock exactly, the door opened. 4 young men walked in. Preston stood up so fast he almost knocked over his chair. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. His eyes filled with tears. They were so tall, all of them over 6 feet. They had Nora's auburn hair, worn in different styles now. Owen's was short and professional. Everett's was longer, tucked behind his ears. Theo's was styled with some kind of product. Beckett's was somewhere in between. But they all had Preston's gray eyes. His jaw, his build. They looked like him. They looked like young versions of him. But they were also completely their own people. Owen wore a button-down shirt and looked serious. Everett had glasses and carried a worn paperback book. Theo wore a vintage band t-shirt and had an easy confidence. Beckett was quieter, observing everything with careful attention. They walked over to Preston's table. For a moment, nobody moved. Father and son staring at each other across 5 years and 18 years and a chasm of mistakes. Mr. Aldrich, Owen said. Please, Preston said. His voice cracked. Call me Preston. They sat down. Preston sat down too. He couldn't stop staring at them. His sons, right here. Real, not photographs or distant imaginings. Real human beings sitting across from him. This is weird, Everett said finally. Preston laughed. It came out as half a sob. Yes, very weird. We look like you, Theo said. People have told us that. But seeing you in person is different. You look like your mother too, Preston said. You have her hair, her smile. Beckett leaned forward slightly. He'd been the quietest so far. Why didn't you answer when our mom tried to tell you about us? The question Preston had been dreading. The question he'd practiced answering 100 times. But now, sitting across from his son, all his practiced words vanished. Because I was a coward, Preston said. Because I was hurt and angry from the divorce. Because I blamed your mother for things that weren't her fault. When she tried to reach out, I assumed she wanted to hurt me. I didn't want to hear it, so I blocked her. I told my lawyers to make her go away. But even later, Owen said. His voice was controlled, measured. Even months or years later. You could have wondered. You could have checked. You're right, Preston said. I could have. I should have. I didn't because I was selfish. I wanted to move on with my life. I wanted to forget your mother and the failure of our marriage, so I did. And I missed everything. The four brothers looked at each other. That silent communication between people who've grown up together, who know each other's thoughts without words. What do you want from us? Everett asked. Nothing, Preston said. I don't have the right to want anything from you. Then why did you agree to meet us? Theo asked. Because you asked, Preston said simply. Because even if I don't deserve it, I wanted to see you. For 5 years you've been this abstract idea to me, a mistake I made, a loss I have to live with. But you're not abstract. You're real. You're my sons. And even if I never see you again after today, I wanted to meet you once. Do you regret it? Beckett asked. What you did to our mom. Every single day, Preston said. Your mother deserves so much better than how I treated her. She was going through something incredibly difficult, and I made it about me. I made her feel like a failure when she was doing her best. Then I divorced her and erased her from my life. She must have been terrified, pregnant with quadruplets, alone, with an ex-husband who wouldn't even take her calls. She never spoke badly about you, Owen said. That's the part I don't understand. We asked her about you growing up. She just said you made mistakes. She said everyone makes mistakes. Preston felt tears running down his face. He didn't bother wiping them away. She's a better person than I am. Yeah, all four boys said at the same time. Then they smiled slightly. The same smile. Preston's smile. They talked for 2 hours. Preston asked about their lives. Owen was studying political science at Cornell. He wanted to go to law school. Everett was at Brown studying English literature. He wanted to write. Theo was at NYU in the music production program. He was in a band. Beckett was at Columbia studying environmental science. He wanted to work in conservation. You're all so accomplished, Preston said. Your mother raised you well. She worked constantly, Owen said. Built her firm from nothing while raising us. She never complained. Never made us feel like we were a burden. You weren't a burden, Preston said. You were a gift. A gift she deserved, and I didn't. As they prepared to leave, Preston asked the question he'd been holding back. Will I see you again? The four brothers looked at each other. That silent conversation again. We don't know, Owen said honestly. This was a lot. We need to process it. I understand, Preston said. Can we ask you something? Beckett said. Anything. That night at the gala, when Mom brought us, you looked shocked. Did you really not know about us? I really didn't know, Preston said. Seeing you was the biggest shock of my life. 4 sons, standing there, looking just like me. I thought my heart would stop. Did you deserve it? Theo asked. What Mom did, showing up with us, exposing you in front of everyone. Preston thought about it. Then he nodded. Yes, I deserved it. I invited her there to humiliate her. She just showed me the truth instead. She showed everyone what I'd lost, what I'd thrown away. I deserved every second of that humiliation. The 4 boys stood. They shook Preston's hand, one by one. Formal, distant, but not cruel. Then they walked out of the coffee shop together. 4 young men with their whole lives ahead of them, walking away from their father who'd never been there. Preston sat alone at the table for another hour. His coffee had gone cold. The cafe was filling up with Saturday afternoon customers. Life continued around him while he sat in the ruins of what could have been. He'd met his sons, once, for 2 hours. It was more than he deserved, and it would probably be all he ever got. In Manhattan, Nora sat in her office at Westfield and Associates. The view from her window showed the city stretching out in every direction. Her firm now occupied an entire floor of this building, 35 employees, projects across the country. Success she'd built from nothing while raising 4 sons alone. Her phone buzzed. A text from Owen. "We met him. I'll call you later with details. We're okay. Love you, Mom." Nora smiled. Her boys. Her brave, curious, good boys. They wanted to understand where they came from. She understood that. She'd never tried to make them hate their father. She just told them the truth and let them make their own choices. She didn't think about Preston much anymore. That pain was distant now. Ancient history. She'd survived it. She'd built something beautiful from the ashes he'd left behind. 4 sons who knew they were loved, who knew their worth, who understood that family wasn't about biology. It was about showing up, being present, doing the work. She'd taught them that. And in teaching them, she'd healed herself. Preston had to live with his mistakes. Nora got to live with her triumph. That was justice. That was enough. 4 years later, Preston sat in his West Village apartment. He was 62 now, fully gray, lines carved deep in his face from years of regret. He lived quietly. Small consulting business, weekly therapy, monthly letters to sons who never responded. He'd seen them once, 5 years ago, for 2 hours. They hadn't reached out again. He understood. He was part of their past, not their future. He was a question they'd answered, and then moved on from. In his closet, there were now 368 letters to sons who would never read them. Love letters to children who'd grown up without him. Apologies that would never be heard. He wrote 1 each month. He'd write them until he died. It was all he had left to give. And that was the story. The consequences of pride, the price of cruelty, the permanent nature of some mistakes. Preston Aldrich had everything: money, success, respect. He threw it all away because he couldn't see past his own ego. He couldn't admit that maybe the problem wasn't his wife. Maybe the problem was him. Now, let me talk to you directly for a moment. Because this story isn't just about Preston and Nora. It's about all of us. It's about the choices we make every single day that build our lives or destroy them. Preston chose pride over love. He chose blame over responsibility. He chose revenge over reconciliation. And he lost 4 sons. He lost 18 years he can never get back. He lost the chance to be a father. Some consequences are permanent. Some mistakes can't be fixed. But Nora chose differently. She could have been bitter. She could have raised those boys to hate their father. She could have made them weapons in her war against Preston. But she didn't. She chose love over bitterness. She chose truth over revenge. She chose to build something beautiful instead of dwelling on something broken. And her reward? 4 incredible young men who know their worth, who know what real family looks like, who understand that showing up matters more than biology, who learned from their mother's strength and their father's absence exactly what kind of people they want to be. That's the real lesson here. Your choices today are writing the story of your tomorrow. Preston's choice to block those calls, to refuse that contact, to send that threatening letter. Those choices written 18 years ago determined the story we just heard. The lonely ending, the empty apartment, the letters that will never be read. Nora's choices to show up, to work, to love, to raise her sons with dignity and honesty. Those choices written over 18 years determined her ending. 4 sons who love her, a thriving career, peace, victory. Not because she destroyed Preston, but because she built something that couldn't be destroyed. So I'm asking you now, what story are you writing? Are you choosing pride or love? Are you choosing blame or responsibility? Are you choosing revenge or reconciliation? Because those choices matter. They matter more than you think. They matter forever. If this story moved you, if it made you think about your own choices, I need you to do something. Hit that like button to help others find this message. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below and tell me what lesson you're taking from Preston and Nora's story. What will you do differently because of what you heard here today? And subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because every week, I bring you stories that don't just entertain. They transform. They teach. They help us all become better versions of ourselves. Next week, I have a story about a mother who gave everything for her daughter, and what happened when that daughter finally understood the sacrifice. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember this. Your choices today are writing the story of your tomorrow. Choose wisely. Choose love. Choose to show up. Choose to be the person your future self will be proud of. Choose to build something beautiful instead of destroying something broken. This is Dr. Phillips, and I'll see you in the next story. Choose well, friends. Choose well.